In the next few lessons, I'm going to jump into some settings and quirks of using After Effects. But before we do that, I wanted to briefly cover precompositions. Now, in the other courses in this After Effects for Beginners series that will come after this course, we will delve deeper into precompositions, but let me briefly cover it here now. You notice how we grouped all of these into a folder. And when we created that solid, now it created a new folder here for solids. Now, to do the equivalent thing in the composition workspace here, because now we're getting a lot of layers, is to do a pre-composition. So if we shift select all of these and right click and go to pre-compose, or we could go to layer pre-compose or control shift C. We can group all of these into its own composition. And typically you want to move all attributes into the new composition and adjust the composition duration to the time span of the selected layers. So if these didn't run the whole length of this, or we want it to go more later, we need to adjust those in the composition settings of that pre-composition later. So to pre-compose this, it just gives it this default name. So you want to make sure you're staying organized. I'm just going to call this Looney Tunes circles. Again, hitting enter and not double clicking. So now we have, it's a little more organized, but the downside to this is you have to double click this to go into that composition. It's added a new tab of that composition here. And now we have that animation living inside of this. Compositions and pre-compositions are an important aspect of After Effects we will encounter again and again, but I just wanted to show the equivalent of putting something in a folder in this area as we start to add more layers is pre-composing it. But again, the disadvantage of that is those layers disappear in a sense, and you have to start to animate them in another viewer, in another composition. So we'll talk about that more in later lessons, but I just want to introduce that as a concept early on so you start to get comfortable with that. Now, let me show you a few handy features if you do have pre-compositions and how to view those, because it can be a little tedious to have now the animation stuck in this composition and you can't see how it is relating to the other composition. There's a couple different ways you can get around that. The first would be to go back to this composition and to lock this viewer here. There's a little toggle to lock this viewer. And then when we switch over to this pre-comp, the view space will stay on the composition where we had locked this. So we can see it says comp 1. And so that is comp 1 here. And now we're in the pre-comp, even though what we're viewing is comp 1. So we could change the animation on this. If I hit U on this layer, I can pull up these keyframes and it will take a minute to update. If I click this keyframe and drag it, you can see it update in the viewport that the animation has changed in composition 1, even though we're in pre-comp 1. So I'll undo that and show you the other way we can do that. So if I unlock this, it's going to jump to this pre-comp 1 viewer. So the other way to get around this is to add a new viewer. So if I right click and go new viewer, and now we have two viewers side by side, you can see that it locks this one. So if we were to change one, either by clicking on the pre-comp 1 here in the layer panel or in the viewer, there's a pre-comp 1 here as well. We can click that and go to that pre-comp while seeing it here. So we can get a side-by-side view by opening up another viewer. So those are the two ways to look at pre-compositions while animating them in different viewers. And that's two ways to do it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.